Hi, how you doing? I'm Rich and welcome to today's video, which is carrying on with our Linux Basics series. And today's video is Introduction to the Linux Command Line. So now we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of the CLI. And as I've said before, the CLI is one of the most powerful places in Linux because we can do absolutely everything on the command line, and you can do more in the command line than you can with the GUI, and it's a lot easier most of the time. And on some systems you might not have a desktop environment. If you're running the server version, if you're logging into somebody else's computer via SSH or something, you won't have a desktop environment. You'll just have the command line. So it's imperative that you learn at least the basics on how to use a command line so you can get around it and do some things in there. And we're going to be entering commands and arguments to carry out various tasks and actions. And these can be anything from creating and moving files, could be running programs, scripting, networking, you name it, it's all on the command line. But today we're going to look at, we're going to touch on the super user. What is it and how do we use it? A little bit about who am I running similar commands. Navigation around the CLI, because that's pretty important to get down, and a little bit into the history in the CLI. Okay, so without further ado, let's jump straight in and take a look in real life. So here is my Jammy Jellyfish Ubuntu Linux virtual machine, and it's a desktop environment. Okay. So similarly to Windows and the likes, you've got a file explorer, and when you go into it you've got all your file folders, you've got your files, and you can move around it backwards and forwards into other things. Love that file. You can navigate around it with your mouse clicking away, but we can do the same with the CLI, but we're in a desktop environment. A server edition would boot straight into the CLI. If you SSH'd into something, you'd already be in the command line. So how do we get to the command line in a desktop environment? Well, this is where our lovely little program called Terminal comes in. And it's pre-built into all of the Linux operating systems. There will be some form of terminal in there. On the Debian ones, it's normally called Terminal. Make it a little bit bigger. And it's just a window, it's an application, it's a program. This system does run a little bit slow. It's only got one CPU core given to it and a couple of gig of RAM, just to make my PC a little bit happier whilst I'm doing all the recording stuff. So here's your terminal. Wow, we're in it. Yeah. There's a little button at the top, so if we're in one terminal and you think, oh, I need to launch another terminal, you could relaunch it over here by relaunching the program, or you can just hit this little button and we open up a side-by-side terminal, yeah, as a tab. And you can launch loads of them and have loads of tabs in a row. It does get a bit confusing, but again, we don't need it, so we're just working with the one tab. Right, so the terminal, the command line. This is now the command line, and our main thing on here is our prompt, our command prompt. Let's have a look and go through what it is and what it all means. So the first part of our prompt is our user ID. In my case it's Rich, that's the user ID I set up when I installed it. Yours would be different, or whatever it is that you've used to sign in. And we can just ask the system to double check that by running a command called who am I, and it tells us you're logged in and working as Rich. Superb, that matches up. We are Rich. Well, I'm Rich, not in the monetary sense in any way, shape or form, but so the next part is Jammy VM. What's that? That is my host name. That's the name I gave to this virtual machine when I created it. And again, yours will be different. It'll be whatever you created it as. And similarly to the who am I command, there's a command to double check this. Hostname. jammy VM. Now you might be sitting there thinking, well, hang on, Rich, it tells you in the command prompt what your user ID and your host name is. Why on earth would you need a command to tell you that? Well, as I say, if you've SSH'd into a machine, or you're doing some nefarious hacking stuff, or you're doing a pen test or something, and you've gained a reverse shell, that'll be way down the line in the cyber series, but you've gained a reverse shell into a system, you might not have this information. You might still have your command prompt, or you might have some other information, so it'd be useful to know which user that you've actually signed into or you're currently acting as. Again, you might have a couple of sessions open with different machines, and you go, oh, hang on a minute, I've got 3 or 4 windows open here. Which one's this? Host name? Ah, right, that's that computer. Okay, happy days. So they may seem a bit benign and useless, but they do come in useful and handy sometimes. So the next part of it is this little squiggle. What's that? That's the tilde character. And in Linux, that tells us that we are currently in our home directory. And what do I mean by that? Well, when you open up your File Explorer, it jumps straight into your home folder, where you can see your documents, your downloads and whatnot. So this just basically is a shorthand version just to say you're in your home directory. And again, there's a command for that. You can get lost in the system, and especially if you're SSH'd in, or you've got a reverse shell, you need to know exactly where you are. So there's a command, and it's called print working directory. But that's a bit of a mouthful to be typing out. You need to be quick. Linux is all about super, yeah, so let's be super. The command is actually simply pwd, and we run it, and it tells us we're in our home and rich directory. Yeah. Now this is the full file path right from the start of the hard drive. Where are you in this file structure? So the first slash designates that that's the start of the file structure. Home is the set of home folders, and we're in the rich home folder. If you had other users on here, you could go into the home Sally folder, the home Dave folder, the home Oscar folder. So it just says where you are in the system. Cool. The next bit is the $sign. Does that mean anything? Yes, it does. That tells us that we're logged in and currently using the system as a standard user. Okay, we're not administrator, we're just a normal standard user. So what would an administrator prompt look like? Well, I can show you that by switching user to the administrator. So what I've typed in here is sudo, which stands for super user do. So what I'm doing is telling the system, do the next command as the super user, so the administrator. The same as going into Windows and doing run as administrator. Yeah, and the command I'm going to use is super user. I've got no arguments behind it, so it automatically defaults to the root user, the administrator. But it does want my password to make sure that I'm authorized to access this user account. So I type my password in, and I'm now logged in as the root user. Yeah, this is how I'm acting now. And it says I'm root. I'm still on the same machine. I haven't gone anywhere. I'm still here. But instead of the little tilde to show you where you are, that you're in your home directory, because we're not actually in the root's home folder. We're still in our home folder. So it hasn't got the tilde. It shows us exactly where we are. And the $sign is now changed to a hash or a pound sign, depending on where you're from. Yeah, we can do the same. Who am I? I'm root. Hostname, still on the jammy VM. And what was the other one we were doing? pwd. For print working directory, we're still in our home directory. Great. So we're logged in as root. And we've gone through basically what all this gobbledygook here means. I'm done with the administrator account now. I don't want to carry on because it's not the safest way of carrying out your day-to-day tasks, running as the administrator. So we'll just type exit to exit out of the administrator privileges, yeah? And there we go, back to home. Fantastic. So let's get into some commands and arguments. We've run a few commands, but we haven't got any arguments in there, yeah? And I don't mean an argument as if you're going to start shaking the screen, oh, God damn you. I mean, it's an argument. It's basically what you want the command to do. So we'll look at one. Let me just type this in, because if I try and talk and type, you know what's going to happen. I'm going to type out Lorem Ipsum junk or something. So here's my command and argument. Again, the sudo in front, it's not really a command. I'm asking the system to run as administrator. So do as the super user. My command is apt, and apt is the packet manager for Debian based systems. If we were on a Red Hat system, we'll be doing yum as a command. Why yum? I've no idea. I'm not that deep into Linux, and I don't use Red Hat, so I don't care. So apt is our packet manager, and that controls all the packages in our system, all the software and everything. So that's the command. My argument now is update. So I'm asking the command to do something specific, and that's to update. And the update argument will tell the package manager to update all of the repositories, and the repositories are banks of information about all the software that is available out there, yeah, that's available to us. So we hit enter. Luckily my system's up to date, so this shouldn't take too long. It shouldn't have too much to do. It does take a minute or two, and again this is kind of not got the most resources built into it. So it's done that command. All that's done is updated the information that's available to it. Okay, hasn't upgraded, hasn't done any updates specifically, hasn't upgraded anything. So we need to tell it to do that with sudo apt upgrade. So we still need to use our elevated privileges to use the apt command, and we're still using the apt command, but we've changed our argument now to upgrade. So this will say, look at the new information, compare it against the information we've got on our system, and if there's anything that's been updated, then we'll go and upgrade that. We enter and off it goes. And thankfully, as I say, my system's up to date, so there's nothing to do. Now, if there was something to do, now I would have a prompt saying, look, there's all these packages, it's going to take up this extra space on your hard drive, normally kilobytes. Are you sure you want to go ahead? And it'll say yes or no, and you type yes, and off it goes. But ideally, especially if it's a new install, this could take 10 or 15 minutes, depending on how much is out there. So ideally, I'd like to run the whole command, or all of it together, and go and have a brew. Yeah, I could just walk away and let it do its thing. And we can do that in Linux. Let's take a look. There's our first command and argument. Over here is our second command and argument. So how do I get, if I do this now, it won't do the second one. It'll run the first command and think the others are arguments because there's nothing in between to separate the two commands. So it'll think that all these are arguments, and it'll probably chuck up some errors going, what are you talking about? Sudo's not an argument. I can't find that argument in my command. So we need something to chain these two commands together, yeah? And the way we do that is with two ampersands, two and signs. And that just says, run this command, but don't stop there. Once you're done, run this command. And what about the prompt bit? Because if I run this now, and there was something to update, it'll still stop on the prompt. It won't upgrade, it'll be waiting there for me to go yes, I do yes, it'll still take another 10 or 15 minutes. So we want to tell that to go ahead and accept that. And we don't have to type in a whole new command, because it's still part of the apt upgrade command path. So we can add in another argument. and in this case it'll be -y to tell it just use Y as the default for the prompt that you're going to give us. Yeah, and I can hit enter on that, and off it goes, and it'll do its stuff. Happy days. I'm just going to kill that because we don't want it to do it again, and we'll come back to killing it in a couple of seconds, right? But at the moment we've run our first command, and if it's yours, we'll pause your video, go and make a brew, and let it finish, and then carry on from here. If it is doing the update. So we've done that, we've done a command, we've done an argument, we've had a right old row, yeah. But now I'm left with all this junk on the screen, and I want to carry on doing some work, and I'm working down right on the bottom of the screen, and it's getting a bit claustrophobic down there. Look at all this stuff. I can scroll back up with it with my mouse wheel, scroll back through, see what's been going on, but it's all a bit messy now, and I just need to clear it all up. And there's a command for that. It's simply clear. And again, with the command line, there are a load of shortcuts, because people are doing a lot of programming constantly on the command line. Yeah, they haven't got time to be typing 5 whole letters. We want to just use 2 buttons to do the same thing. And if I just bring a bit of this back, bit of junk on the screen, we'll kill it just to stop it. The shortcut for clear the screen is to hold down the CTRL button, or the control button, and press L, and it clears it all. Marvellous. So there's a couple of useful commands and arguments that you've got now. Now, when I was doing that last command and I said, oh, I'll just kill it, I'll just stop it there, I did something, and I'll take you through that now as well. The Control C, so hold down the CTRL and press C, gives you the caret and the C. But if there was something running, if you had a script running, or that update or something, a program running, doing the Control C in the command line will kill it. So if I go to this, here's our command. It's running away. Oh, hang on a minute, I haven't got time to do this. Hold down Control, press C. You get the little caret symbol and the C, and it stopped it dead. Really useful, because if you've typed in a command and it goes off on this merry little way, and you go, oh, I've put the wrong port number, I've put the wrong argument in, or something like that, I've spelled something wrong, you can just kill it, stop it dead. You don't have to wait for it all to complete and error out and do God knows what. You can just kill it dead, sort it out, carry on. Great. So, moving on to some more familiar stuff. A popular command that you'd normally use when you're working in the likes of Windows or any desktop environment is copy and paste. Yeah? So, how would you do copy paste in Windows? And bear in mind that we're tending to leave the mouse alone quite a bit. You can scroll through stuff, but we're tending to not bother with the mouse. You could almost turn it off. Mine's wireless, so I could turn it off and sling it. I won't do, because it costs a lot of money. But how would you do it keyboard wise on a Windows machine? You got it. Control C for copy, Control V for paste. There's a bit of a problem, because we've just used Control C, and that gives you the little caret symbol and a C, and it stops the program running. So we can't use Control C. Is there another button? No, there isn't another button, there's an extra button. So in Linux, there's the command line, there's 2 ways we can copy paste. So you've got your good old fashioned, you highlight something, you right click, and you've got a little, the little context menu, so you can go copy, come down here, right click again, paste, and it's in. So you got your standard use your mouse to do it. The other way we can do it, using your Control C, Control V, is to highlight your text. If you hold down Control C, it's not going to do it, so you need to hold down Control Shift and C will copy it, and then Control Shift V will paste it. Okay, so Control Shift C, Control Shift V for copy paste. Now you're probably thinking, hang on a minute, let me just write that down, pause the video, let me write that down. Don't worry about writing any of this down. There's a blog series that I'm doing that's going to follow along, and hopefully the blog is going to start replicating the videos that I do on the channel, and videos will replicate the blogs eventually when it lines up and whatnot. But there will be a blog, it's already written, ready for this. So by the time you get to see this, in the comments, not in the comments, sorry, in the description below, there'll be a link to the blog, and all these commands will be listed down for you. So you don't need to be scribbling away. Where's my pen? Oh, my pen's run out, my pencil snapped and whatnot. Don't worry about it. You can follow along if you like with me, or you can watch the video, go and get the blog, and come back with all the commands and play it at your own pace. So, moving on. Let's get rid of all this. So, moving around the terminal. Okay. You've got your arrow keys on a keyboard. Yeah? Up, down, left, right. We're going to look at left and right for the moment. Left arrow key obviously moves character at a time through the thing. If you hold it down, it might skip a bit. So left and right moves you one character left and right. If I hold down the control key and press the right arrow, it will jump to the beginning of the next word. If I hold down the control key and press the left arrow, it does the same backwards. So I can skip words rather than having to hold the left arrow and go. So it's a quick, easy way of jumping up and down, because some of your commands and arguments might be quite long. I can't just click and go there with the mouse. It doesn't work like that. I can't click. I have to use the arrow keys to navigate around. So you go, all right, Rich, you've done the left and right. So if I want to go up, I just press the up arrow. It doesn't work like that. Let me get rid of all this. Let's do clear the screen. So up arrow is its own command, which is the history command. Okay, so you press up, it'll go to the last command that you entered, which in my case was clear. If you press up again, it'll go to the one before, the one before, the one before, and you go, oh, I've gone too far. Press down, it'll scroll back down through all your commands. And you go, that's great, and it is. It's very, very useful, especially when you're doing stuff and you go, right, I'll try that command. Yeah, now I do that. Now that didn't work. Go back to that command, change something, do it again. Marvellous. It's a good way of shortcutting having to type great big long things in. Very useful if you go, what was it I did? Oh yeah, PWD. Right, okie dokie. But you might have been working here for a while and you've got tons of commands and you go, Rich, I don't want to have to go and scroll through all those commands. I'm going to be pressing the up. I'm going to break the up arrow. Yeah, but there's a command for that. It's called history. And when we actually type history, it gives us a list of all our history. I don't know what the little asterisk is, but here's all our history, yeah, of everything we've done. And you can see all the stuff that I did before when I first did this machine. I installed Chromium browser. I did the updates. We'll come back to touch something. I touched something. It's not what you think, really. You know, so here's all the commands. And you think, well, that's great. Now I can see it, and I could type that command in. But that's not the lazy way. It's not the quick way. You've got to type it all out again. So how do I run command 53 in the list? I want to run that command. That's the command I want, and I don't want to have to type it all out again. We do a little exclamation mark. This only works if you've got the list, if you've just run the history command. We do an exclamation mark and the number of the line that command is on. So in this case 53, we hit enter and it tells us what the command was. I'm pointing at the screen again. It tells us what the command was and then runs that command. Control C to kill it. And you might say, yeah, but if I'm working here and I just nip to the loo, and then Dave might come along and go, what's he been doing on his computer? Oh, look at everything he's been doing. Oh, I can see everything he's done. Now I know his. You might have typed your clear text password in somewhere, or you might have logged into something. Yeah. Now you're giving away trade secrets. So you can do history-C, which will clear the history. Do history again. And now we've only got one command, which is the command we've just run, which was history. Bear in mind, this doesn't delete the history. It just clears it in your terminal window. Doesn't delete the history. The history is stored in a specific file, and if you want to fully delete the history so that nobody could ever see it, what have you been up to? Right? But you'd have to find the history file and delete it. I'm not going into it here because we don't really need it that much unless you're doing something nefarious or something you shouldn't be doing. Anywho, so there's a little bit about getting around the terminal, yeah, and a few little commands that we can run and play around and tinker with. But before we were looking at the GUI window here and clicking on things and going into folders and whatnot. So I'm in my home directory working here. Yeah, we know that because of PWD. We're in home rich, which is here. What if I want to go into my documents folder? Well, there's a command for that, and it's called the change directory command. But again, we don't need to be typing big long words. It's simply CD. So we can do CD documents. And now we're in the documents. How do we know we're in the documents? Well, if we go into documents over here, there's a bunch of files. Again, we can come over here and do print working directory. We are indeed in home rich documents. Great. But over here I can see these files and the directory, and I can click on them and interact with them. We can interact with them from the command line. We just can't see that they're there. We trust that they're there, but how do you know? Well, we use the list command. And again, it's shortened to ls. So we do ls, and that shows us we've got a directory, and it's in a pretty blue colour on my screen. We've got file, so there's directory 2, file, there's file, file 1, file 1's over there, file 1.txt, that's there, file 2.txt. So the ls command lists the contents of the directory that you're in. You can give it an argument of a full path to a directory, and it'll list the contents in the directory path that you've given it. And we can see that by, if I do ls / directory 2, because this is a directory within my directory. There we go. Didn't need a slash. There's nothing in it. Prove a point. This folder's empty, so it didn't bring anything back. But I didn't need a slash. So we can list directory contents now. But I know that some sneaky person has put an extra file in here and you can't see it. If I go in here and I go show hidden files, what's popped up? .text. Yeah? If you put a dot in front of your file name, it saves the file as if it's the normal file, but it tells the system that it's now a hidden file, and you can't see it. So I can see it in my little GUI. It's not showing up in here, is it? But we can go and take a look at this. Now, what argument could you possibly give to this ls command to make it show? Don't know. I could do with some help. Help! Yeah? So let's get some help. Now there's 3 ways that you can get help. 2 ways in here and another way that I'll show you in a second. So our command is ls and we want some help. So we give it an argument of help. And there's our help. Now we can scroll with our mouse. Still need the mouse really. We can scroll because it's just easier. We can scroll up and down, and here's all our stuff. And it tells you how to use ls. You use the command and then an option, which is an argument. And if you want, you could give it another option of a file name or something. But on this top one, do not ignore entries starting with a dot. Aha! Bingo! But notice, when I've said before that, and in the previous video, we need to be very careful of case sensitivity. Yeah? Although little a and big A, yeah, lowercase and uppercase, are very similar, they do different things. So if you wanted the little a and you type in the big A, you're not going to get what you want. Yeah? And you think, yeah, it's only A, I don't need to worry about it. There's the B's, lowercase, uppercase, C's, lowercase, uppercase, D, F, G, H, it goes on. So you've got to be really careful and specific with what you're looking at. But A looks good to me, doesn't it? Wasn't this help file helpful? We go all the way back down. I did say that there's a couple of ways we can do this. And commands are like programs. And programs have manuals to go with them. Yeah? RTFM. We can look at the manual for the command. How do you do that? Again, we shorten stuff. Man, ls. It's not an argument. It's a command. Manual is a command itself, and the argument we're going to give it is the list. We want to look at the manual for the list command. Man ls, and here it is. Starts at the top. So you can see it's pretty much similar to the help option. Still gets the usage and the name, gives you a description of it and everything. And you can scroll up and down through all this. But there's a couple of other ways to navigate through it. You can press the enter key and it'll scroll down line by line. There's quite a few lines. So you go, there's quite a few lines, and doing it one by one is just a bit naff. So we hit the space key, or the space bar, and that'll go page by page down through it. Yeah, page by page all the way through. And you go, right, I know it's A, I know it's dash, lowercase a, I've got my information. How the hell do I get back to my thing? You just do, pointing at the screen again, you just do Q to quit, and you're back. So, ls, and we're going to use the argument dash or tac a. And there we go. Now we've got all the hidden files and directories being .text. Super duper. Not very descriptive, is it though? We don't have a great deal of information. What if we wanted a bit more information about these files? What could we do? We could go through the help file and go, what will give us a bit more information? Ooh. L will use a long listing format. That sounds a bit more interesting, doesn't it? Let's have a look what L does. So ls-l, and that gives us the long listing. So it shows all user permissions, and we'll go on to user permissions in a different video. It gives you who the user is, the group that the file belongs to, the size, and date and time stamp. Okay. But what are these numbers? Yeah, they don't really make much sense at the moment. So we can add to our arguments. We could do ls dash l, and we'll do a -H this time for human readable format. And there we go. It will, if it's of certain size, it'll give you kilobytes now. So that's 4 kilobytes, that directory. And the files are in bytes, so it doesn't bother give you anything. But if they were in the megabytes, it'd have a little M by it. If they were gigabytes, it'd have a little G by it. So we've got loads of information. And again, I could go ls-a-l-h and use all of the arguments. Yeah, you can keep using arguments. You can add as many arguments as you like, as long as they do something useful. But again, typing all that -a-l-h, we can shorten that again. And it doesn't really matter the order that you put them in this, especially in this case. I just put them in this order because it spells la, right? La. And we don't need the spaces now. We can just chain them all together. If you separated them, it wouldn't know what to do with them because there's no dash to tell it what to do with it. So it would just go, I know what the L is, what's this AH? No idea. Sort it out. So we just stick them all together. It does exactly the same thing. So there's our list in the contents in a directory. But how do we're currently in the documents directory. I want to go back now into my home rich directory. Two ways we could do it. We could give it the whole file path for it, or we could do change directory full file path and it'll just go directly to that. Or because it knows where we were, I can tell it 2 dots, go back 1, and I'm back in here. Now if I want to go back a couple of folders or many folders, let's go where was I in here? I'm just going through the we've got change directory, CD documents. Right, so I'm back in my documents. See, the history command's a bit more useful, isn't it? I'm in my documents and I want to go way back. Change directory, I can give it the full file path. But I want to go back more than just one folder. So I put a slash in it. I'll do another one. There we go. Now I'm back into the home directory, but not in my home. If you know what I mean. I'm not in the rich folder, I'm just in the base home directory. And again, I could go back right to the root. So print working directory, where am I? I'm in the root. And when you see all the files and folders in here, there's loads of stuff. Yeah, there's the root folder. There's the home folder. So we've moved around into directories. And that's where we're going to leave it for now, guys. Yeah, we've done quite a bit. We've looked at what commands and arguments are. We've navigated around the command line. We've had a look at who we are, where we are, why we are, and what we are. And we've had a brief look into navigating around into folders and things and emulating what we can see on the desktop environment, yeah? And catching out those sneaky people doing hidden files. In the coming videos, especially in the next one, we'll look at interacting with files, yeah? How to open a file, how to write a file, and things like that, and then we'll look into text editors after that. But as I say, this is all we have for today. And I hope it's been quite a long time, so I hope that's been quite a bit to get you going. Yeah, I hope it's been informative. If it has, give me a thumbs up, just to let me know that it's useful. If it's not been useful, then drop me a link in a comment in the comments. Let me know. What did you like about it? What didn't you like about it? And what do you want in the future? You know, do you want me to go away and shut up? Happy days. Bung it in. Whilst you're down there, do the little subscribe as well. Just keeps you in the loop. And then hit the notification bell for when I release new videos when the next one comes out. Yeah. But in the meantime, appreciate your time. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.